today we're talking about something really exciting. The future of Africa is certainly bright, but we're asking, how do you gain digital success, especially now in light of everything that's happening around the world? And my panelists, you're seeing some of their beautiful faces. Hi, TD from South Africa, Raindolf Owusu from Ghana. You'll be seeing him shortly. And we're also expecting JJ Omojuwa. But Raindolf, I want to begin with you because you are a genius of sorts, actually. You're a software developer. You're behind some of the biggest technical advancements in West Africa and indeed the continent of Africa. So how would you define success in a digital sphere?
Right now, as you know, technology has gotten easier. I'll define success in a digital age as, building a solution to solving a critical problem, but doing it digitally. You don't need an office space or anything. All you need is just an excellent idea and a laptop.
What you've said is that so long as you are solving a critical problem, then you should definitely consider yourself a digital entrepreneur. So Tidi, do you consider yourself one? Because you're using the tools of technology to basically talk to people about what you're passionate about, health and fitness, specifically with an emphasis on yoga. Would you consider yourself to be successful?
Wow, I think it's pretty tricky to measure success, especially right now, given the new normal that's happening in the world. But I consider myself afloat because I still keep going. I'm still profitable, and I'm still able to communicate to people what it is that my passions are, and generate, I guess, a profit from it. So I guess successful it's a tricky one to measure because, like, we have our vision of what success is.
Okay, I see that JJ has joined us. I wonder if he can hear us. I'm just going to give him a moment to orient himself, but he's one of the panelists who will be speaking to us. And he's actually written a book about digital success. So JJ, if you're ready, you're right into the frying pan. How do you measure digital success?
Thank you very much, Edith. For me, it depends on what you're chasing per time. Sometimes it's about influence and the size of your voice and your reach.
Going off of that then, how does the African continent fit? Where is it in the ecosystem of the digital sphere? Because it's such a big and fluid space, Raindolf. Perhaps you might have something on this. Where are we as far as innovation is concerned? As far as content creation is concerned, are we the leaders in this, or are we very much occupying a space that has already been set by somebody else?
So at this point, Africa is in a very good space now. I think we are more in an experimental space because at this point in Africa alone, we have more than 400 innovation hubs. These are office spaces that are opening up for people to try out ideas. As creatives or as innovators, we need a space to try out all the solutions and know which one works and which one does not work. So after this phase, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, I believe we are going to have massive success stories in terms of companies that have been acquired for like $1 billion, or companies that have built a solution like Facebook that more than 500 million people are using. And a proof of what I'm saying is the fact that now Google has, for instance, they set up an artificial intelligence lab in Ghana. You go to Nigeria, Facebook is partnering with hubs in Nigeria. So we've reached a space where people who have been there, like Facebook, Google, they are recognizing the work African innovators are doing, and they are partnering with us. They won't be partnering with us if we weren't making major strides. We are not creating as much as we are consuming, but we are experimenting, and I believe in about 3 to 5 years, there will be excellent stories that will be out there that the public will begin to know that okay, Africa is a hub or a place where people should begin to look at.
Okay, so JJ, I'm just gonna go off of where Raindolf left off. Africa is not to be left behind. We're definitely front and center. But do Africans believe in African innovation? Do we believe in our own technology?
I think Africans believe in excellence, and that unfortunately means that they often find themselves using platforms and solutions from outside of the continent, and that's not far-fetched. Unfortunately, we are not at the forefront right now on most of these innovations, but I don't want to create an other identity out of Africans. Africans are just the average human beings. They are primarily about what their own interests. And what interest is basically about, does this thing really meet my needs? Does this thing work faster?
But
does
JJ,
it work better?
let me jump in right there, because yes, we all like excellence. I will be the first one to admit that. But there's a stake here for everyone. The new currency is data. And if we don't own the technology, do we then own the data? And if we're giving it so freely, doesn't Africa then get left behind?
So the thing is, the way and this might not be like a very popular statement to make, but I just like to be practical. We are not one body. So yes, we are Africans, but we are individual interests. Because when we have these conversations, sometimes we often, because there's an African idea and an African identity, we often assume that there is an African agenda. Really and truly, we can all see there is no collective African interest, and I haven't seen enough of even the African nations to say that there's even individual African national interest.
Okay, well, trust JJ to stir the pot, but Tidi, I saw you nodding in the background. Are you saying to me that South Africa as a country doesn't have a policy, for example, that would protect you as a self-employed content creator? Are there frameworks that are there to protect you?
Because the digital space is quite a new space, the frameworks that are in place do not quite protect the artist or content creators, so to say, because we're still trying to navigate what are the parameters of intellectual property and such, what governs the digital space. So we've been trying to fight rights for journalists since, I guess, the 2012. And I feel like I really agree with JJ in terms of there's no specific, you can't blanket Africa being as to what are the interests in Africa. Everyone has their individual spheres where they have interest. And I think different spheres are shining individually on their own.
But, you know, there's a lot of connectivity, obviously, which is not just exclusive to Africa. The whole world is feeling it. But are we, in a sense, excluding? There might be a minority of Africans from these innovations, the people who don't have access to electricity, for example, people who are digitally illiterate. What happens to them in this movement that we're talking about? Raindolf.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So a lot of the time when we are talking about innovation, we always leave out those in the rural areas, those in the informal sector who are not literate. There are certain solutions that you know, with just a mobile phone, without internet connectivity, you can have access to, you know, farmers' weather information. So there are things like this being made, but there's not being a massive push for what happens to those who have been left out. So I believe we can start from somewhere. You know, we can talk about governments because they have the you know, the money, or they have the budgets to support education of some of these folks, and also to extend connectivity to some of these areas, because internet has been a blessing for Africa. Today, you can sit in Ghana and go to a university virtually, you know, so we leaving out these people is a big problem.
Raindolf, thank you so much for your comments. I really liked what you said. So JJ, who gets to finance these dreams and aspirations that we have? Because there are many.
I think the most obvious answer is to say government, but I've personally not believed that governments can do these things effectively. So I would say, to make this thing happen, to create the opportunities and to have the investments that are necessary to create the prosperity that we need in this space, in the digital economy, government only needs to create the incentives. People need power to set up industries. People need the skills. So some countries say they have a huge population, but is your population skilled? We need the enabling laws. Are property rights protected in your country? If property rights are not protected in your country, I'm not going to bring my capital to your country, because then if somebody goes to court, I don't trust the criminal justice system to protect me.
So then, Tidi, I have to ask, are we as young people, the people who are really in effect on these digital platforms, using them, are we advocating enough from our leaders? Are we demanding more of what JJ is asking for? Or are we just hoping that, you know, as he said, things will just work themselves out?
We're not just hoping that things will just sort themselves out. I think we're pretty active and we're vocal about what it is that we want, and we're vocal about what the kind of future that we want, to a point where we're even contesting and challenging the powers that be, like such as government. I could speak for just South Africa, especially given social media. We're very open and very vocal to government in terms of what it is that we need, what it is that we demand from government. So we're not mute at all.
You know, Obama didn't wait till he was in the 60s before he got into office. When you look at the Prime Minister of Canada, the same. So it's critical that young people really start looking and entering into that boardrooms, because that's where the decisions are being made. You know, we always want to sit at the isolated office spaces and work, but you know, it's important we are part of the decision, you know. And I believe if we can look the government in, we can do a lot, because they need a lot of educations themselves. Those in there, some are in their 70s and 80s, they are not going to live the next 20 years. So they don't care really much about the future. I believe it's in our hands, and we should really get in the positions of power and make decisions to happen.
You're talking about utilizing this digital space to raise your voices. And when we're talking about digital success, it's also politically. But how do we prevent ourselves from ourselves here being young people from being infiltrated? Because it wouldn't be the first time that a government has used the same platform that that activists use to spread misinformation. Kenya is a good example, Cambridge Analytica interfering with our elections. So Raindolf, in that situation, how do we say justice to all in a space that's already been occupied?
Yeah, that's a very good one. It will be very difficult to kind of filter such a space, you know, because definitely there are going to be bad ones out there. But I believe that we should find a way to get some of the messages clear out there. Organizations that are recognized should lead some of these missions. But the truth is, it will be very difficult, because even the US, they're still fighting fake news now, because it's a vast space where there are so many information trooping in. But, you know, we should always abstain from violence. Make sure they understand what we are doing. It shouldn't just be on social media. We should actually find ways to sit down with them and show them what we are talking about.
I just want to take a couple of questions that we've been receiving from our viewers, and a lot of you are talking about the issue of electricity. Trust me, guys, I feel you. I'm at home in Kenya, and I'm so scared the power might go off at any point. So I feel you on that one. This question is from Christian Obi. He asks, how long did it take you to transfer your actions and businesses to be strictly online during the COVID-19?
The transition for me was pretty smooth. It was because before the COVID situation, my presence online was already there. Now it was just a matter of turning my online presence into profit, because advertising through Instagram, advertising through collaborations online, so that was already there. So I was fortunate enough that that foundation was already laid.
So are we saying that the person who was late to the party, who wasn't perhaps as organized as you were before, has absolutely no chance of making it? Okay.
Not at all. I think it's about how you read the room, read the situation in terms of what it is, what do people need, what is the need that is on social media, because you can recognize that people are at home, you can recognize that people are looking for ways to occupy their time. So in terms of that, that's what you tap into. It doesn't matter if people start on social media with millions of followers and you come on and you have a small following. The fact that you can identify the need and you can tap into it and you can speak specifically to that just means that people are going to be more keen to want to follow you, because you're speaking to something that they want. As soon as you have something that they want, they're willing to follow. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, so I guess we're really circling back to this idea of you can define your own success in the digital space. Okay, so JJ, I think this one is specifically for you. It's from Ibiokoro Daniel again, who says, with the rate at which the Nigeria police is arresting young people, especially those who have any businesses to do with digital, don't you think you're in great danger for being a digital entrepreneur? I'm just paraphrasing that last part. But he brings a really question where people who are on the digital space and speaking openly are persecuted.
Yeah, and it's also a good thing that we're pushing back massively. The NSAS movement that's happened in Nigeria was completely from the internet. It was completely from Twitter. We brought the entire country on its knees, and we did it starting out from social media. I say that because it was very important for us as young people as looking to access opportunities in the new economy, in the digital economy, to refuse to be beaten down by oftentimes governments that have not done enough to even give you the opportunities. I always say that the least you can do to someone you've not helped is not to get in their way of moving forward.
All right, JJ, I think you definitely have a future in politics if you so choose to do that. Articulate your points very clearly.
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning, we were talking about the future of Africa being bright in as far as digital technology is concerned. And the last time I was with you in Accra, we were talking about a new ICT policy that the government was meant to put in place.
Yeah.
So what is the potential for this continent? Leave us with something good, please.
So what is left in the continent now is the solutions that would create wealth, that would impact lives, and that will solve key problems. I believe that what is next on the continent is that people will begin to look at innovation differently, you know, solving the problems their mothers, their fathers have had for so many years. So that is going to be especially one place in solving key problems. Impact, because it's very critical. Still, so many people live in poverty. How do we raise, you know, funds to feed people who are hungry? How do we empower them? You know, we are only empowering those out of university who can speak English, who have access to computers. How about those in the rural areas who do not have access to the university? How are we empowering them to know
Or even
the
people with
best?
disabilities. I think we very often forget that group.
Exactly. So these are like the blind spots. I would want to term it the blind spots in innovation. We should start looking at those critical areas and solving solutions. So the next phase is really bright. We'll be deploying the solutions. So Africans should watch out for deployment of very critical solutions. So after the testing phase is definitely the solution. So we are moving to that phase. So the future is bright, and I'm happy. Young people are getting the recognition for the works they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a 77%. We're all about young people. I can't think of a more fabulous place to wrap up. TD from South Africa, JJ from Nigeria, Raindolf from Ghana, myself from Nairobi. Thank you so much to all our participants who asked your questions. Asanteni sana and goodbye.